This is one of the most mysterious species in the world. That could be because they spend more time underground than any other canid. Or it could be because they were named for their speed, and if you blink, you could miss them. Or it might be because these furry foxes almost went completely extinct in the 1930s. This is the swift fox. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animalogic. Today we're in Grasslands National Park in Saskatchewan, named for, you guessed it, its incredible natural grasses, and we're on our way to go and visit one of its smaller residents. The swift fox, aka Vulpes velox, is actually one of the smallest of fox species in North America. Their name makes them sound like the fox version of the Flash, and that wouldn't be an inappropriate comparison. These foxes are sweet and petite, typically about 30 centimeters tall, weighing about 2.5 kilos, and they can be up to 1 meter long. Their tails are long and make up about 50% of their total length. Their ears are pointy and quite large relative to their bodies. So what I'm saying is these foxes are mostly ears and tails. They are smaller and more slender than their relative, the red fox, and are lighter in color. Swift foxes are identified by their dark gray and tan coat, which changes to orange and tan fur on the sides and legs, with white or buff fur on the chest and belly. But the most distinguishing traits of the swift fox are the black patches of fur on either side of the snout and a black tip on its bushy tail. Swift foxes live in dens. They rely heavily on these underground burrows because they spend so much of their time there. I just found a den in this little hill here that qualifies and probably fits all the check marks for a swift fox's den. I can't dare disturb it, but it's really cool to see this right in front of me. Dens are usually 2 to 4 meters in length with 4 entrances to avoid being cornered by predators. These entrances are small, which also allows swift foxes to quickly escape from larger predators who won't fit inside. These kinds of low slopes with sparse vegetation are the perfect spot for a swift fox to build a den. It gives them the perfect vantage point to be able to scan their entire location. Their main predators are coyotes, but swift foxes are also hunted by badgers, horned owls, golden eagles, hawks, and bobcats. Like most foxes, swift foxes are nocturnal and are rarely seen outside the den during the day. But just because they're homebodies doesn't mean each den is a forever home. Swift foxes are known to use up to 13 different dens in a year, and will move from place to place if there's scarcity of available food or a buildup of bothersome parasites. Rather than digging a brand new den with each move, they're often found living in abandoned badger holes. Don't work hard, work smart. When they're above ground, swift foxes prefer prairie grasslands like those found here in the Grasslands National Park. Actually, 1/6 of the Canadian population can be found here. The rest of the Canadian population are found across the Great Plains of Saskatchewan and Alberta. In the United States, swift foxes are found in similar prairie environments, ranging from Montana and the Dakotas all the way down to Texas. Swift foxes live in pairs and have been known to mate for life, although some choose to only stay with a partner for the year. Both male and female swift foxes take on the responsibility of raising young, and their pups are born underground in the dens. Breeding usually occurs between January and March, with a gestation period of about 50 days. The average litter consists of 4 to 5 swift kits. At birth, swift fox pups are blind, as their eyes remain closed for up to 15 days. This makes them completely reliant on their parents for the first few weeks of their lives. Swift foxes are just that, swift, a necessity when trying to outrun predators or catch food. As for their diet, swift foxes have evolved to feed on a little bit of everything. They adapt their diet according to the availability of food sources and are known as opportunistic foragers. These omnivores can be found eating anything, from insects and grass to reptiles and even carrion. Due to a lack of resources at times, they can't afford to be picky. All right, I know what you're thinking. For fox's sake, Danielle, enough with the background. We're dying to know how this tiny fox nearly went extinct when it would eat almost anything. Well, buckle up, because things are about to get grim, and swiftly. Historically, the swift fox was actually considered an abundant predator of the prairies. According to fur trading records dating back to the mid-1800s, swift foxes were once so abundant that 117,000 were trapped in a 20-year period. Then, in Canada, in the 1930s, swift foxes completely disappeared from the wild. So what happened to these sweetest of Swifties? In the early 1900s, when Canadian territories were becoming more populated and both agriculture and ranching became extensive, the loss of natural grasslands habitat absolutely gutted the Canadian swift fox population. They also faced threat from excessive trapping for their furs. Swift foxes are known to be curious beings without a healthy fear of humans, so they became vulnerable to shooting and trapping. Then, they faced inadvertent poisoning as a result of farmers trying to kill other pesky creatures, like prairie dogs, ground squirrels, and coyotes. If they didn't ingest the poison themselves, they could eat insects containing pesticides, causing sickness or death. Another factor that impacted swift fox habitats is cattle, which eventually replaced the bison as the main ruminant in their prairie ecosystem. Because of this, grasses became taller. There was a loss of prairie dogs, which resulted in a loss of dens and prey for swift foxes. Would they ever catch a break? Fortunately, since the 1970s, conservationists have been working on reintroducing the swift fox to the Canadian prairies in order to re-establish a small, self-sustaining population. Some of these releases were even made in Grasslands National Park. And thanks to these reintroductions, there are now several hundred swift foxes in these areas. Despite this, today, swift foxes occupy less than half of their historic range in the United States, and less than 90% of their historic range in Canada. They still face habitat fragmentation and poisoning. Conservationists believe that swift foxes can be considered indicators of an intact grasslands ecosystem, and that conserving habitat for swift foxes benefits other wildlife species. Further, the swift fox isn't a threat to today's farmers and are even beneficial since they prey on insects, mice, and other rodents. The survival of the swift fox and the preservation of the natural prairies are closely linked. We're rooting for you, swift foxes! So what should we talk about next? Please let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching. See ya! Woohoo! I'm dizzy! Ah. Woohoo!